Resident Evil 5 Remake is slowly becoming a topic of discussion in the RE community, and this is due to Resident Evil 4 Remake hinting towards Resident Evil 5 being the next remake, or at the very least, a remake to come in the future. As we head towards Resident Evil 5 Remake, I plan to expedite these discussions because soon, the sun will set on the age of man. There are story and gameplay elements I would like to see remain in the game, but also be improved upon. The most important story element to return in the remake is obviously going to be the setting, West Africa. I recently published a video covering why Resident Evil 5 will take place in Africa. If you wish to learn more about this topic, I highly recommend watching the video. You see, West Africa serves as the foundation for Resident Evil 5's story, bridging the stories of Resident Evil 1, Code Veronica, and Umbrella Chronicles to Resident Evil 5. It's the perfect destination to conclude the story between Jill, Chris, and Wesker, should Wesker die in Resident Evil 5 Remake. That's right, if Wesker showing up on the island in Resident Evil 4 Remake and Ada becoming infected prove anything, it's safe to say the story may not end the same way this time around. Speaking of STAR's Alpha Team, the full cast of Resident Evil 5 must return in the remake. From Chris Redfield to Dan DeChance, all characters are essential for the remake. Resident Evil 4 Remake did an outstanding job recreating the personalities of the characters featured in the story. The most notable changes were done to Luis Serra, easily being the game's most valuable player. If I had to guess which character will receive the same treatment in Resident Evil 5 Remake, I would say Joss Stone. It's safe to assume Sheva Alomar will receive the necessary character alterations to make her more enjoyable and grounded. Not to mention, of course, the improvements to her AI. I believe Sheva and Josh will become gamers' favorite duo in the remake. There's huge potential with those two as they both represent West Africa. Now, let's talk about Jill Valentine. Resident Evil Death Island had Jill make her CGI film debut and her return to the franchise post RE5. In the film, Jill is still haunted by the experiments performed on her by Wesker, so Jill being brainwashed in Resident Evil 5 Remake will return without a doubt. And I hope this time around we see more behind the scenes. I would love to see Wesker actually saving Jill during the fall, and maybe more from Wesker's perspective on how the device was made to control her. Back in 2009, games were not leaked nearly as much as they are today, so most of us had no idea Jill was in the game other than the tombstone we all saw during the trailer. I really hope Capcom makes Jill's face reveal more impactful than in the original, and we get more screen time of her throughout the game, which brings us to Lost in Nightmares and Desperate Escape. For the longest time, we regarded Lost in Nightmares as the series' best downloadable content. This opinion changed only a month ago. Lost in Nightmares reigned supreme for the past 13 years. That being said, Lost in Nightmares must return in Resident Evil 5 Remake, not as DLC, but serve as the game's introduction. There's no indication whatsoever Resident Evil 1 Remake will ever be coming. Capcom could give us the closest experience to Resident Evil Remake with Lost in Nightmares. Recreating the Spencer Mansion in the RE engine would be a nostalgic treatment for many gamers. As for Desperate Escape, I wouldn't mind the extra content returning as post DLC, much like Separate Ways in Resident Evil 4 Remake. I don't have any suggestions for improvements, so if you have any, feel free to comment below yours. I would love to hear it. I'm confident the studio in charge of crafting Resident Evil 5 Remake will make Desperate Escape enjoyable. Resident Evil 5 is known for many things, both good and bad, but the game featured something outrageous, and of course I'm talking about boulder punching Chris Redfield. This is an absolute must-have in the remake, and us true fans know it will be. Thanks to Heisenberg in Resident Evil Village, we know the RE engine era of Resident Evil recognizes Chris fighting a boulder and winning. It's been debated over the past decade if Albert Wesker did truly die in Resident Evil 5. For many he did, and for some, he was believed to be a clone. Well, Resident Evil's live-action Netflix series revived this possibility as we saw multiple Weskers. Now, before you all start, I'm bringing this up because those involved with producing this series must have been aware of this theory and decided to run with it. So don't rule out the possibility Resident Evil 5 Remake may feature Wesker clones. So for my last returning story element, it's best for Wesker to die in the remake. However, this time, make it more clear so there's no confusion. If not, show us how he survives. Now, should Wesker survive Resident Evil 5 Remake, it opens a lot of possibilities for Resident Evil 6, because should Capcom make Resident Evil 6 Remake, we all know it would be a massive project, and Resident Evil 6 was received both positively and negatively, so they could be going in a new story direction if Wesker survives Resident Evil 5 Remake. Resident Evil 5 is a long time away, so if you want to see more content regarding Resident Evil and Resident Evil 5 Remake, be sure to subscribe. If you made it this far in the video and enjoyed it, drop a like and check out my last video. Resident Evil 5 Remake will take place in Africa. Thank you all for watching, and remember to survive the horror with Purple Earth.